All right, this is a Hatha yoga practice where we're going to work towards a flying pigeon arm balance. You're going to start standing at the top of your mat and take as long as you need here. So I move pretty quickly. If you need more time, please take more time to prepare. Inhale, reach your arms up when you are ready. And on your exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. You're going to step back with your left leg. So inhale, half lift, lunge back with your left leg, bend your right knee, open your chest forward towards the front of the room. Big inhale here. And then plant your palms and step back into downward facing dog or tabletop. If downward facing dog is too soon for you, table. Smooth your breath in through your nose. Soften your shoulders slightly so you're not jamming back into them too much. You could even lift your heels off the floor here. And then go ahead and lower your knees down to the floor and situate your knees apart for child's pose, balasana. Hips towards heels, forehead to the floor. And use your belly to pull your sit bones down towards your heels, stretching your arms forward. Another breath here. Next inhale, you're going to start to lift up and roll forward into a plank position. You're going to bypass, or actually tabletop, you're going to bypass tabletop and lower all the way down to your hips, your thighs, your hips, maybe even your low belly. Cobra, Bhujangasana. Then as you exhale, come all the way down to your belly button. You can lower your forehead down, and then on your next inhale, roll up into Cobra pose. Again, Bhujangasana. Engage those thighs, lift your knees. Roll up over your knees in your next exhale and slide on back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Then you're going to step your left foot forward this time. Keep your right leg back, lunging on the opposite side. Left knee bends, open your chest towards the front of the room. Step through with your right foot, exhale, forward bend, forward fold, Uttanasana. On your inhale, press down into your feet, engage your hamstrings and the back muscles to reach up, Urdhva. Hastasana, upward hand pose. Fold right back down, exhale, Uttanasana. And then this time you'll lunge back with your right leg. So as you inhale, lift up halfway, lunge back with your right leg, bend your left knee, open your chest. Plant your palms on the floor to step back into downward facing dog. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take that big breath here in through your nose. Soften your shoulders, lift your kneecaps, maybe even lift your heels. And then on your inhale, you'll again come down to your knees. Situate your knees comfortably so you can move back into child's pose, Balasana. Forehead rests on the floor, arms stretch forward, lifting your elbows, lifting your wrists. Fill up your back with your breath. You can really feel your breath moving into the back rib area. And then on your next inhale, come up all the way forward down to your thighs and hips. Cobra, Bhujangasana, point your toes back, lift your knees. Lower all the way down to your belly. Exhale. You can relax your forehead for a moment. And then inhale, curl back up. Cobra, head comes up last. Open your chest. Elbows stay softly bent. And then over your knees, back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now your right foot will lunge forward, bending your right knee, keeping your left leg open. Open your chest. On your exhale, then step up with your left foot, landing in another forward fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, reach up, Urdhva Hastasana, upward hand pose. Samastiti, exhale, standing pose. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to add on a little extra movement, but it's the same style of a warm-up with Warrior One. Bend your knees, Utkatasana. Look up to your hands if you can. Keep your knees bent as you fold over your legs and touch down on the blocks or floor, and then straighten your legs as you fold. Lunge back with your left foot, except this time turn your left heel down at an angle. Look forward, and then inhale, lift your head up over your hips, followed by your arms, followed by your gaze. Keep pressing your right knee forward and your left foot back, left leg straight. From Warrior One, hands come down to your mat, and then step back with your right foot, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale into plank or kneeling plank, and then bend your elbows for modified chaturanga. So going through chaturanga now instead of straight to cobra. Then on your inhale, lift and lengthen up, Bhujangasana. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Right, and then you'll step forward with your left foot for the second side. So look forward, see where your left foot's going to go, step it through, turn your right heel down, warrior one, Virabhadrasana A, left knee is bent, right leg is straight. Head and then arms and then gaze. Keeping your hips low, keeping your left knee bent and your right leg very strong. Squeeze your right glutes. From warrior one, exhale, hands come down and then step forward with your right foot, Uttanasana. Bend your knees. Inhale, Utkatasana, fierce pose. And then press your legs to straight as you stand. Exhale, Samastitihi. Catch your breath here. Find your balance between your 2 feet. Again, bend your knees. Inhale, Utkatasana. Fold. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up just slightly so you can step your right foot back comfortably. And warrior one, left leg forward, right leg back, left knee bends. Lift your chest, lift your arms, lift your heart. Exhale, place your palms on the floor, step back with your left leg, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. This time when you take chaturanga, if you want to move into plank pose with your knees down, revisit that, or keep your legs straight. And then bend your elbows, lower your belly button towards the floor, flip to the tops of your feet for cobra or upward facing dog. Use your exhale to lift your hips up and roll back over your toes or flip your feet under for downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Stepping forward with your right foot so you can look up first and see where it's going to go, and then set your left heel down at an angle. Bend your right knee, reach your arms up, left thigh strong, left glutes strong. As you exhale, take your hands down to the floor and step forward with your left leg. Uttanasana, forward bend. And then on your inhale, bend your knees. Utkatasana, fierce pose. Reach your arms up. Press to straight leg stand. Samastitihi. Exhale, release your hands. Let's move into a standing forward bend. So separate your feet about hips width apart. Reach down for your big toes with your fingers. Hook your big toes. And then as you exhale, bend your elbows away from each other. Pull your belly away from your thighs. Pull your thighs away from your belly. That does not mean your legs have to straighten out. They're just pulling away. So your legs could be bent here. You're pulling your forehead in toward your shins, using your core muscles to shorten the front of your body and lengthen the back of your body. Keep pressing down into the balls of your feet and keep bending your elbows away from each other. On your next inhale, straighten your arms. Inhale, lift up. Situate your feet for malasana now, so your feet come back in closer together and the toes point straight forward. Garland pose. The feet are not angled out. The feet are together if you can. Then if you can take your arms around behind in front of your shins and then behind. You can keep your fingertips on the floor, or you could wrap around your heels with your hands if you'd like. But your sit bones drop towards the floor, your forehead drops towards the floor, and your belly is highly engaged here. It's a real core movement here. Okay, and then come up out of that for a toe squat. So now you're sitting on your heels, your thighs are parallel to the floor, your heels are up off the floor, ankles squeeze together. If your ankles are moving out, you're going to wobble. So really squeeze in with your inner ankles. Squeeze your thighs, front hips engage, the front belly muscles engage, the low belly. And we're going to slowly transition this up to stand. So push your heels down, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Keep your knees slightly bent. And fold, exhale, Uttanasana. And then start to inhale as you lift up halfway. Step back with your left foot. Place your left heel down. Warrior one, right into warrior two. So I didn't even reach my arms up. I just turned the torso from warrior one right into warrior two. Right shin is vertical. Left glutes, again, they engage because your left hip is flexed. Look out over your right fingers. And then inhale, straighten your right leg, reach your arms up to the ceiling. open your arms forward towards the front of the room, and then as soon as you feel the right hand kind of lines up with your right ankle, split your right arm down to your right shin, and the left arm is overhead, just briefly stretching out the left side, but then take it straight up to the ceiling. Let your gaze follow your left hand up to the ceiling. Try not to turn your hips open here. Try to keep your hips drawing in towards your belly button. Press firmly and equally down into both feet on the mat. And then soft bend in your right knee. Walk your hands forward. Step your left leg forward. Uttanasana, forward bend. Inhale, half lift. Lift your head up as high as your hips. Plant your palms and step back 1 foot at a time into plank pose. Chaturanga, exhale. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take a few moments here or in child's pose to smooth out your breath. Lengthen out your low back. Lift your sit bones, and you might have to lift your heels in order to do that. Then look forward and step or hop up to the top of your mat. Exhale, fold over your legs. Bend your knees, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Inhale, reach your arms. Lift your chest up even as your hips are sinking lower. And then press to straight leg stand, Samastitihi. Forward fold right out of that. Exhale, just let it kind of happen. Inhale, half lift. Right leg goes back. Left knee bends. Again, I'm coming up through that warrior one position, but I'm going to turn right open into warrior two without letting my left knee follow. So that left knee stays tracking the second toe of your left foot. Notice if your hips tend to be, one tends to be higher than the other, so the left hip usually is a little bit lower. So try to press the left sit bone forward, and the right hip presses the left hip forward. And so if you can sink your hips a little lower, the hips will be a little bit more even. Looking out over your left fingertips, engaging your right glutes here. And push into your right foot. Inhale, reach your arms up, straighten your left leg, and both arms overhead, stretch out over your left leg. When you feel like your left hand can split right down to your left shin, take it down. Keep your right arm stretching overhead, and then look up to your right hand. Watch it stretch over, then watch it straighten up. And notice the space that happens in your shoulder from that switching, from that rearranging. Keep pressing down into your right heel and your left foot. So both feet equally press, and the entire points, all the points of contact on the floor, the entire foot is pressing, not just one specific point. All right, bend your left knee, take your hands forward, and step forward. Uttanasana, forward bend. Exhale. Inhale, half lift, and then again you can step back, plank pose. Open your chest through your shoulders, bend your elbows so your belly button and hips lower. And then inhale to the tops of your feet, cobra or upward facing dog. Look up to the ceiling. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog, either moving through table or rolling over your toes or pressing up through plank. Smooth out your low back here, knee in between your hands, and then sit down behind your right heel for Ekapada Raj Kapotasana. One leg king pigeon. Right knee is inside your right wrist. Left toes point straight back. Engage your left thigh. You can stay here with your hands slightly out in front of your shoulders, lifting up your chest for a gentle back bend. Or you could start to walk your hands closer in towards your hips, under your shoulders. You could even use a couple blocks on either side of your hips here. If this is way too intense, take your hands even farther out beyond the edge of your mat. So there's still a slight back bend, an extension in the left hip. And you could bend your elbows and pull your chest through there. So find the place that works best for you, opening your heart up. And then step back, sweep it up, three-leg dog, but only a little bit of a lift in that three-leg. You don't want to lift the leg all the way up overhead. Cross your right leg behind your left leg so that your feet are lined up as best as you can. The left knee might be softly bent. Okay, and then lift your right foot again and take it now in front of your left foot so the pinky toes come together as much as you can. And now your right knee might be softly bent just to compensate for the back leg. But a cross leg down dog always feels good. And then come back up to the right knee, and then the left foot steps up and sit down beside your right heel. Tiryang Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana. So the right knee is situated like half hero. Left leg is straight, and fold out over your left leg. See if your right toes are all pointing straight back. So you might have to use your right hand to get the toes to separate and point back. Put your right heel is on the outside of your right hip. If it's too intense on your knee, you can definitely sit on your heel. Okay, inhale, lift up. I'm going to take my left hand back. I'm going to turn my left foot out, and I'm going to flip this up into Wild Thing. So if that's too intense on the front of your right ankle, tuck your right toes under and push the floor away with your right foot. Otherwise, you could flip the right foot, keep it flipped, and stretch out the front of your right ankle. Lift your hips, press down into your outer left foot, press into your left hand, and then lower slowly back down to your left hip. Take your right leg on top of your left leg and lower down to your left elbow. You can shelf your head here with your left hand, shelve it, and then stick your right leg up to the sky, and then see if you can grab your right foot, flex your left ankle, and use your core here so you don't fall. You can also take your head down onto your arm, and then you can start to squeeze the left foot down. If you roll around here, it's fine. Just let yourself roll. You can always come back through center. And then try to push your foot into your hand. And then that'll kind of pull you over. And then when you come back onto your back, cross your right ankle over the top of your left thigh, and then hug your left knee into your chest. And keep your back as long and neutral on the floor as you can, so there's not a hyperextension or flexion in your low back. It's just pretty natural here. Flex your right ankle. And keep your right knee and second toe in the same line. So wherever your toe is pointing, your knee is pointing. And then from here, you can stay here, or you can slide the heel up into your hip crease and take this into a half lotus position. Please be careful and mindful of your knees so it's not in any pain. And then I'm going to roll up into a squat. So take this point in your practice to make wise decisions. So you can roll up into a squat on your left foot and stay in the squat. I'm going to move into flying pigeon, Ekapada Galavasana. So my elbows are shelving my right shin from knee to foot. Left leg can keep on the floor, or you can extend, straighten it back behind you. Chest is forward, gaze is forward. And then set down on your left foot and swing the right leg up and give the hip a gentle little opening. Shake it out, stretch it out. You can come through chaturanga if you'd like, or take a few moments in a child's pose or downward facing dog. Inhale, upward facing dog if you're moving, and exhale, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Catch your breath here, lengthen that low back. Child's pose is definitely an option, always an option. And then as you're ready, we'll move into that second side, Ekapada Rajkapotasana, one leg king pigeon. The left knee comes up inside your left wrist, so it's not on the outside. And then your right hip sits down directly behind your left heel. We're not trying to get the left shin up or parallel to the mat. This is a back bend. So here, hands can move out beyond the shoulders to lessen the extreme back bend. So we don't want to round out here. So if your hands are far forward, bend your elbows back in a little bit and pull your chest through. Otherwise, you could walk your hands back closer until they're maybe even under your shoulders or behind, and lift your chest up to the ceiling. Squeeze the left thigh to straighten out the left, or the right thigh rather, to straighten out the right knee, and then open your chest. And then slowly we'll come out of this. Tuck your right toes under. And again, you're going to lift your left leg up into that three-leg dog. It's a very moderate three-leg dog. Now you're going to swing that left leg over and behind your right leg and press into this cross-leg dog. So the right knee might need to bend a little bit. The heels do not need to be on the floor. All right, the right knee might be softly bent. And you're going to take the left leg out from behind. Be careful that the right knee doesn't collapse when you do that. And then swing it around in front. So the left leg comes around in front of your right leg. And crisscross your thighs. And again, press back, downward facing dog with a cross leg position. All right, pull your left knee back into your chest and set it down there, but sit down inside your left heel. So instead of Ekapada, we're coming into Tiring Mukha. So it's the right leg straight, left knee bent like hero, left toes point all the way back. And if your left hip is up, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Please don't force it back down on the floor. I got an injury doing that. Someone laid on me in this pose. Wasn't good. All because they wanted my hips to be level, and that's not necessary. So maybe a blanket under your left hip if you feel like you're falling too much to the side. Press out through the ball of your right foot and point back through your left toes. And just a few moments here, stretching out the front of your left thigh, back of your right leg. And then we're going to inhale, lift up, and we're going to take this into that wild thing transition. So now my right foot's going to turn out to the side. Right hand is coming back to the back end of my mat with my right hand back. So it's not too far and it's not too close. My right fingers are pointing straight to the back of the room though. Then push down into your outer right foot and lift up. And again, you may need to tuck your left toes under here to help. Keep pressing the outer right foot and flexing the right ankle. Open your right hip to the ceiling. And within your next couple breaths, you're going to lower slowly back down to the ground with your right hip. Take your left leg on top of your right leg. Come to your right elbow. And then you can shelve your head there with your right hand. Lift your left leg up. Flex your right ankle. And then again, you can straighten out your right arm and lay on your right arm. So if you roll around here, that's fine. Look, I'm going to roll around a little bit. Pull it right back through. Right? Oh, it goes too far though. So this is a good place to find that sweet spot where your core is engaged, where your right hip is engaged, your right leg is engaged. For some reason, this was harder on this side for me. It was really weird. Also, if you're kind of at an angle, if your hips are pitched too much, it's going to feel really hard. And then again, you might try a different approach to this. Instead of pulling your left leg down, push your left foot into your hand and press your hand up, but then resist with the core, with the right core. Right side core lengthening and pulling down to the floor. Right, and then come over to your back and cross your left ankle over the top of your right thigh. And we'll get into this reclining pigeon here on this side. Flex your left ankle, keep your left thigh externally rotating. Again, your back is long, so there's a tiny little space between your low back and the floor. If there were a light shining through, you could see a sliver of light there. Again, you could stay here with this ankle cross or this shin cross, or you could pull the heel up into the right hip crease and be mindful of your knee. So staying here for an extra few moments, or you can roll up and down your spine and come up into that toe squat. So I'm going to show you here. I'm rolling up halfway. Use your hands to push yourself the rest of the way up. Okay, so it does not have to all happen like magical whatever, like we're magical little roly-poly yogis, and we're not. Unless you are, and then cool, go for it. So here you can toe squat. You do not have to take the arm balance. Just stay in the toe squat. Otherwise, if you're balancing, the elbows are going to bend. You can see my shoulders are way out beyond. So my shoulders are not coming down to the floor. They're opening forward, and my elbows are not back any farther than they can be over my wrists. So they're not back behind my wrists. If you're flying your right leg, it's very strong. And then set down on your right foot and release the left leg up and back for a gentle opening in three-leg dog. Tripada, Adho Mukha, Svanasana. All right, set your left foot down, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Then inhale forward into plank pose, Chaturanga Dandasana, forelimb staff, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. And then come over to hands and knees. We're going to set up for Ustrasana, camel pose. And so stay here kneeling. You can separate your knees a little farther apart if that helps. I feel like that reduces the pinch in the back. And you can take your hands back to your heels. Often I will start seated and then press up. So please approach this as it's best for your body. Try not to let your hips move any farther than your knees. So it's not that you're trying to force your hips open. Rather, you're trying to lift your hips up to the ceiling and press the center, like the bottom third of your thigh bone forward, not the top of the thigh bone. Chest up. Head is opening, head is back, but you're not pulling your chin in, right? You're using the back muscles to squeeze your neck. Then chin comes to chest first, and then you lift up. Cross your ankles to sit down behind your ankles and come into an easy seated position. And just sit here for a moment and let your back release from that intense. If it was intense, camel pose can be really intense for me. So just let your back release here. I'm going to take my feet off to the side. Bharadvajasana. So it's the pose dedicated to the sage Bharadvaja. Bharadvaj. Looking over your right shoulder, left hand to your right thigh. Good. And then come back to center. And then sweep your feet off to the other side. Let your knees come down. Just kind of pinwheel your legs, right hand to your left thigh, left hand behind you, looking over your left shoulder. Or just take your eyes out along the path of your collarbones. Your right sit bone is off the floor. Just slight little extension in your back here. And then inhale, come back through center. Straighten out your legs. Inhale, lift and lengthen. You can reach for your toes. And then exhale, forward fold. Paschimottanasana. I like to pull my toes back here and then kind of resist by pressing into my hands with my feet. It creates a more active stretch and a little bit more of a shearing of the calf muscles and the fascia. Press back with your sit bones, so your sit bones are pressing in the opposite direction as your heels. And on your next inhale, lift up to come out of it, halfway first, and then finish the lift with the rest of your breath. Roll down onto the floor. Cross your right leg over your left leg for Supta Gomukhasana, supine cow face, and catch under the soles of your feet with your palms. Pull your elbows down towards the floor. And then you're pulling your heels away from each other. And your shoulders draw in towards your mat. Your hips can lift a little bit, and maybe they push down. It just depends on your proportions and what you need to do to prevent any pinching or any discomfort. And then after a few moments here, release your feet. Take your left foot to the floor. Keep your right leg crossed in an eagle shape and then roll over to the left for a twist. So your outer left knee is gently pushing your right knee down towards the floor, your right leg towards the floor. Your right arm can open up out beside you like a goalpost or a straight out arm. And breathe right up into the right side obliques there, the right side of your twist. You can close your eyelids down and come up with your legs. You can keep your eyes open. It's up to you. Maybe this is the time of your practice. It's time for you to go inside. Because it doesn't matter what the postures look like, really. Cross your left leg over the right leg and take your hands under your feet. And then again, you're going to start to pull the shoulder blades in, and it's almost like you're hugging the mat with your shoulder blades. You can even grab your hands under towards your heels and kind of press your heels up slightly and then pull the outer heels away from each other. If that's too intense, switch it back up to palms under your soles. And notice if you're falling off to one side or the other. Try to keep this pretty neutral, pretty lined up in the middle. Nothing has to be lined up perfectly. Everything's going to depend from side. It's going to be different from side to side. So let it be what it is from side to side and modify accordingly. And then again, we're going to take this into that twist. So take your right foot on the floor, keep your legs crossed. Use your right leg to gently nudge that left leg over. Right leg is laying on the outside of your left leg. And again, you can use your left arm as a goalpost or a straight out stretch. But breathe right up into the left side of that twist, left side of your abdominals. Left side ribs expanding. And then you're going to use your next inhale to start to come back up through center. So finish out that soft exhale. Inhale, lift your legs up, uncross your legs. And just take a moment in a constructive rest if you want your feet a little farther away, knees bent. And then you could stay in constructive rest, or you could start to lift your legs up into Viparit Karani, or I'm going to move into a little bit of a Supta Paschimottanasana. So I grab the bottoms of the balls of my feet, so my fingers are hooking into my wrists, and my fingers are hooking into the balls of my feet, toes into the wrists, and then my feet are pushing my arms above head. So I'm not so much in my shoulders and neck as I am in my upper back. So try not to roll up into shoulder stand. This isn't plow pose, it's different. Your weight is not in your shoulders or your neck. It's in the upper back. And your hips are well behind your shoulders. They're not over your shoulders quite yet. Core is engaged, thighs are engaged, and you're keeping a constant resistance between your hands and feet. So the fingers are hooking the balls of your feet, toes, and the heels of your hands. And this is a lovely inversion to use instead of plow or shoulder stand. You can stay here for a few more moments, and when it starts to get like you can't breathe and it's too intense in your hamstrings, roll down to your hips. And maybe take an extra breath or two with your legs straight up in the air. And then when you're ready, you can lower your feet to the floor, knees bent. Again, another moment for a constructive rest pose. Knees are bent. You can walk your feet away from you a little bit more. That'll help redistribute some of that weight so you don't have to work to hold your legs up so much. It's more of like the weight being caught in your feet. Arms can come down to your side. You can keep them above head. And with each passing breath, you feel a little bit more tension releasing. You feel the practice releasing. The efforts of your practice are washing away with the breath, being washed away. And at any point in time, you're welcome to straighten your legs out and move into Shavasana, corpse pose. You're welcome to stay in constructive rest or move into any other posture that suits your restful needs here. And keep your eyes open, or you can close your eyelids down. And just be aware that if your eyelids open, there's still peace. You don't have to have your eyelids closed and tune out the world to be full of peace. Keep your eyelids open and welcome the peace here.